At number 5, I have Peacemakers, Horrors of War. So this is the newest game from the Peacemakers line, and the first of which that I've played. Now, I've not played any of the previous deck builders. And this one does, however, keep the same theme, where you are kind of a neutral party of these kind of woodland critters, and you are trying to intercept this ongoing war between different factions to try and kind of demotivate them to continue fighting. So you're kind of being the peacemakers and trying to stop anybody from dying. So I like the way that the game is tackled, or that theme of war is tackled from a different angle, and it's quite a creative concept. Now, this is not a deck builder like the previous ones, but it is still card driven, and the way that each round or the game is broken down is pretty simple, where you and your teammates, because this is completely cooperative, will use these decks of cards, or these cards in your hand, to do different things. So you have like movement, you can barricade around certain troops to protect them from, from attacks. You can spy on the warring factions deck to make sure that you know what's going to happen. Or you can use the card for the unique ability on the card as well, which will kind of give you different tricks you can do to manipulate the state of play. Now, once you've played your cards, the armies will resolve their actions, and each army has 2 decks, which will show what they do and the speed in which they do it. And this can be really important because certain events will affect other events. So, for example, one faction might attack, but if the other faction kind of blocks or takes cover before they attack, then they're going to mitigate that attack and take less damage. So it's quite cool how the initiative system works. In fact, it's very creative, and there's even ways you as the players can kind of tip the different factions off to try and make them act faster and so on. The way you win the game is that you are trying to demotivate each of the factions to a certain kind of parameter on this track, and if at the end of the round their motivation is in a certain zone, then you'll win the game. But if one faction gets demotivated too quickly, then the other faction will win, and you as the players will lose. Now, I suppose my biggest takeaway from this game is that combat system. I think it's super cool. There's some cool cascading things that can happen, and some good manipulation you can do, as you can swap cards around and put them at the bottom of the deck so you know what's coming up, as you'd expect with these kind of co-op games. And again, I do like that concept of kind of sitting in the distance, watching things play out, and trying to just turn this little screw here or there to try and manipulate the situation to your benefit. That being said, I do think you need to go into this game prepared that sometimes you will not be doing a lot, because you might have the board state exactly as you want it, and the best thing for you to do is to do nothing. So it kind of feels like you're a true fly on the wall and just not really playing and letting the game play you, and intervening just at the right times. And sometimes doing that thing isn't much at all. So it can be a little bit plodding at times, and you can wait for the game to play out, and sometimes that can even work without much intervention at all. So again, the pacing is a little bit weird with this one. I'm not saying it's bad, and it's certainly an interesting concept, but be prepared for some lulls in play where you don't need to do much, but some rounds where you need to truly intervene and really protect someone, or do something to foil one of the faction's plans. You have 6 different scenarios here, all with a different landscape and different factions fighting each other. Different cards come into play and so on. So there's some good replayability here, and you can definitely go back and revisit the old scenarios you have played, because every time it's going to play out differently. All in all, I like the concept, I think, more than I like the game itself. That being said, please do take my comments with a grain of salt, because co-op games generally don't work for me. I prefer competitive games, but I thought this was such a fresh take on the co-op genre that I wanted to at least give it a try, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to like this one. But if you have kind of itchy feet and you like to jump straight into a game, and maybe you aren't the most patient of people, this one might not be for you, because sometimes it does feel like a simulation, and 2 automas basically fighting each other, because it is that. That might not be for you if you don't like the idea of that. But if you want, again, a different style of co-op games with some good little sneaky things you can do, then I would give this one a look, especially if you have maybe a younger family. I mean, the gameplay is still quite gamey, but it's got a lovely visual design The meeples are gorgeous looking. It's very charming artwork. Great table presence, I have to say that. And some really dynamic combat systems, which unfortunately you're not directly involved in. But still interesting to see how it plays out. So, game where objectively and from a distance I can see it's really clever, but is it one that I'm going to go really deep on and keep going back to? I don't think so, sadly, because I just want to be more involved on a personal level. So that is Peacemakers Horrors of War at number 5.